Genesis' song, Cut It? We live in some interesting times, filled with some interesting people. And sometimes I guess her staff just got in on the action as well, and they started dancing behind her like they were backup dancers instead of, I don't know, medical staff. And again, to be clear, we're talking about real operations on real people who were sedated the whole time. But according to her, patients supposedly agreed to be filmed ahead of time and even picked out the songs, which, I mean, okay, fine. Maybe some of them did, but that doesn't really explain the lawsuits that went flying. And I feel like that explanation gets a lot murkier when you realize what was actually going wrong in that operation room while the cameras were rolling. And by the way, she made like 20 different videos with like 20 different patients. So this is just crazy. But essentially, this is where the story stops being funny. So in February of 2016, a woman named Isilma Cornelia, she went to see Dr. Bote a few weeks before her wedding. She was also working towards a PhD in nursing at the time and wanted some Botox and a few touch-ups so she would feel good in her dress. But according to court records, once the staff realized that she was getting married, they pitched her on more, and she ended up agreeing to a tummy tuck and liposuction package on top of the original plan. And the procedure apparently ran for over 8 hours, and she wasn't even given general anesthesia or intubated. She just got a mix of medicine. And there was allegedly no proper monitoring equipment being used to track her oxygen levels during all of this. And near the end, when Bote was still stitching up the incision, and Silma's heart just stopped. So staff called 911, but by the time paramedics got there, she was, in her attorney's word, essentially gone. And unfortunately, even though they got her breathing again, the damage was already done. She survived, but she came out of it with permanent brain damage and needed a feeding tube and full-time care for the rest of her life. Her son, who was 26 at the time, became her caretaker, and he did that job every single day for 7 years until she passed away from complications related to this injury. So once the Silma's case became public, more patients started coming forward, and by mid-2018, report had counted at least 7 active malpractice lawsuits against Bote, with several more already settled. Like, you had 2 sisters, Christine Dolly and Mitzi McFarlane. They said they went in for something called smart lipo, a laser-based fat removal method, and instead came out having undergone regular liposuction, which left them both saying they felt very disfigured. Then you have Latoya Rideau, the patient in the Cut It video. She said that she never agreed to be filmed during her February 2017 surgery, and the results left her uneven and in ongoing pain. Imagine being too busy filming social media content for your business, trying to be funny, to actually do your job properly and not actually take care of your patients. Like, this is just so crazy. But I still feel like it's pretty much all downhill from here. Because something that came up during the reporting in this was a very important detail. Because Bote's own website advertised her as board certified in both surgery and dermatology. But apparently, she was only board certified in dermatology. But she was still operating on people and filming music videos? To make things worse, she didn't even have admitting privileges at any hospitals either, and her office itself wasn't a licensed surgical facility. It also came out that the Georgia Medical Board had reportedly received a complaint about her practices as far back as 2016, over 2 years before her license was finally suspended. So in June of 2018, after a physician's assistant reportedly called in a separate incident, which was, in this case, a patient hospitalized with a collapsed lung and blood loss following a liposuction, breast augmentation, and BBL combo, the Georgia Composite Medical Board suspended Bote's license, calling her a threat to public safety. What is wrong with Atlanta at this point? I mean, we've covered so many of these medical scams coming out of Atlanta. You had, you know, all the veneer techs. You had the couple that was doing BBLs in motels, and now this, a dermatologist operating on people in a facility that you can't operate on people in while filming music videos? I'm at loss for words for Atlanta. But apparently in an interview at that time, Bote defended the videos. She said that they were all staged and planned, and that the patients, they had picked the songs themselves and told her when to hit certain beats, which is, you know, hard to do when you're under anesthesia, but hey, whatever floats the boat. Also, remember the woman in the Cut It video? She claims that she had no idea that this was going to be filmed. So I don't know who's lying here, but I do have a hunch. But she also claims that these videos were just an educational tool.
I'm kind of private. I'm very private. So for me to actually harness a personality for social media and make it where it's a human relationship building and educational, and also to relieve anxiety about cosmetic surgery, because there's a lot of when in my preoperative and consultation visits with my patients, I notice that the biggest thing that comes across is anxiety. Music is such a global language, right? If I tried to educate through just pointing at the computer and saying, here is your muscular anatomy, here's where the muscles separated, this is the amount of skin I may cut off or a tummy tuck, people, they didn't quite listen. When I added music to it to educate, all of a sudden, people paid attention.
And apparently she told Rideau something along the lines of being a dancing doctor actually grew her following because apparently people love a dancing doctor.